This week on Media Delta. In 1991, Capcom produced a shoot-'em-up based on a manga by Kaoru Shintani named Area 88. As Area 88 was a manga about a group of mercenary fighter pilots fighting in a war against increasingly powerful adversaries, it provided the perfect setting for such a game, despite the manga's focus on the horrors of said war rather than just the action. At the time, Capcom was also looking to bring the game to the West. Area 88's popularity here was there, although minuscule compared to Japan, despite it being one of the first manga published in English all the way back in 1987. So, Capcom decided to rebrand the game over here as UN Squadron, even though they decided to keep the names from almost everything else from the manga, except for the name apparently. The popularity of Area 88 in Japan led to have other adaptations, other than said video game, notably two animated adaptations. One, a trio of OVAs produced from 1985 to 1986, and a 2004 TV series. The OVAs will be the subject of this episode, with the 2004 series having to wait for another day. So, please join us as we can see if we can survive our tour of duty looking at Area 88, the OVA series. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Media Delta. This time we got something a little bit different than what we took a look at last time. Although not maybe quite, because this is also one of the things that Salamander was one of the first things we took a look at in Ranking of Shmups when that first series, when I was doing that series. But there was another thing that we took a look at pretty early on, and that is a game that, particularly arcade version of a game called UN Squadron. And that is a game that is kind of a cult classic, at least in its SNES form. Also in the arcade version, that one of the reasons why I did Media Delta was this is actually a prime candidate of why I kind of, or one half of why I kind of started the series, was the idea of, because one of the things is you get used to a game, or you get kind of familiar with a game, and it's like, oh, hey, this game's kind of neat. Why don't I look a little bit into it? And you kind of realize, or something that I didn't realize for a while, especially now when I was first playing it, that UN Squadron is actually based on a manga. And that manga is named Area 88, which is what we're going to be talking about now. Because
what an unfortunate number.
Yeah. I guess it's, yeah. But yes, that it thankfully does not go quite into that territory, but it definitely goes into some dark places, but not quite that dark.
Different kind of dark.
So yes, with me to talk to me about this, who do I got in alphabetical order?
Hi, this is Carnival.
I'm Torpo, and did you know that war is hell?
Really?
Bet you didn't.
Well, this thing will definitely tell you. So yes, Area 88. So this is actually based, Area 88, we're taking a look at, this was originally a manga, but we are taking a look at a OVA series that was based on it. It is one of the kind of the three main ways that this kind of property has been released. The first originally being a manga that only partially got released over here. This series has kind of had rights hell. Like, in fact, right now, as we're recording this, it's kind of in rights hell right now. It only about, like, I think it was like a quarter of this entire manga run got brought out over here.
Yes, the last 12 issues were never brought over here.
Which I think there was 23, so about half.
Yeah.
A little bit more than half. But yes. There was also, so there was this OVA series that came out in 1985. The first one came out in 1985, and it looked like it ran, like the last OVA was released August 15th, 1986. So released in kind of a weird thing, because it seems like not everyone get it consistent about what exactly the release of this thing was, because it is usually referred to be released in three different distinct parts, with the titles of the acts being referred to as Area 88 Act 1, Blue Skies of Betrayal, Area 88 Act 2, The Requirements of Wolves, and Area 88 Act 3, Burning Mirage. Yeah, those are some names, all right. And these OVAs did actually come out over here. Actually, it came out over here twice, because one of the other ways that this series kind of left the manga was that there was also a TV series in 2004. That when they released that set on DVD, they actually redubbed with the English voice acting that they had for the TV show. They actually redubbed the original OVAs, which is actually the version that we watched.
It was pretty. The voice acting was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll get into that once we get into the characters, but yeah, this series has a really weird release. Because also it's weird because a lot of the times it seemed like Acts 1 and 2 ended up getting merged. So it's really weird to see, like, because especially I've seen like run times has been weirdly inconsistent about when you're looking up to see who actually worked on this, or like not.
Yeah, we ended up watching 2 parts that were in hour 38, and that was the OVA for us. But because people keep lumping together parts 1 and 2, we found.
Yeah,
and I'm guessing it has something to do with the release of the anime version.
Yes. Yeah, I'm guessing. Also, because it's weird because OVAs 1 and 2 are, I believe it's 53 minutes and 48 minutes, whereas the last OVA is like 93 minutes. So they're really weirdly timed. Like, they're really long. So, you got that. That probably is not helping. Also, it seems like, because OVA 1 also does not have a distinct ending, which is also weird. Like, you can definitely tell when Act 2, when OVA 2 ends, it definitely, you can tell when.
Oh, dear Lord, yeah.
Act 1 does not have that, but we'll get into that. So, before we actually get into the actual thing itself, just to give a brief overall, we'll do that once we get in the cast. Let's talk about what actually, like, who worked on this. So the manga itself was written by is it written or drawn? Is that referred to when you talk about manga?
It depends. Well, it depends on if there's a separate team or is it just one person. Because usually when it's one person,
this is definitely one person.
Then I would just say is written. Just say written and drawn by.
Yeah, this
is made by.
Yeah,
you could just say made.
Yeah, so Area 88 was made by Kaoru Shintani, who. Not a lot of his work came. I believe it's his. Yes, his. A lot of his work did not come out over here. Area 88 is definitely his most famous work. The thing about him that you will, if you take a look at anything about Area 88, one thing that will be very apparent is that he was actually a assistant to Leiji Matsumoto, who is the creator of things like Captain Harlock in Galaxy Express 99. He's very prolific. Is he also the Cyborg 99 or is 99? Yeah.
No, Cyborg. Wait, Shitara Shimoa.
Oh no, he's Space Battleship Yamato is what.
Yeah,
he worked
so that
on.
yeah.
So
also, 9 is
you can
Ishimoto.
tell he was his assistant because he apes his style hard.
Yes, the protagonist of this series looks a lot like Captain Harlock.
There was like one of the first jokes made when we were watching through, actually.
So I do want to kind of go. Because I'm looking through Kaoru Shintani's kind of works. Area 88 was actually one of his first manga. His first one was something called The Phantom Burai, which went from 1978 to 1984. Area 88 was from 1979 to 1986. A lot of these are just kind of pretty basic names. There is something... Something like Cleopatra DC, apparently. Futari Daka. Something about a motorcycle gang. I do like the fact that he just produced a manga called Goddamn. Like, that's just the name of it. Also, because I'm looking at this on Wikipedia, and I noticed that there is a link, actually, for... actually, his latest work is actually apparent. Well, not his latest. His second latest is something apparently called Young Miss Holmes. Which I think that also got an anime. Oh, nope, it didn't. But yeah, that's the... There's also a link to something called I Dream of Mimi.
Fuck, did that get a show?
I don't think it did. So just as a complete side, it's great when you can... One of the things I love about doing deep dives into Wikipedia about people saying... So this I Dream of Mimi that he did, also known as Butobi CPU, which apparently blasting off CPU. It's great when you can kind of just read the start and you can kind of see exactly where this thing's going. Because, and I'm sure Torpo might see where this is going as soon as I did. And I see I Dream of Mimi is a Japanese series by Kaoru Shintani. It was produced in 1997 by Pink Pineapple Studios.
Oh.
So it was released in North America by The Right Stuff International under the name I Dream of Mimi. It's a couple other things. And it's great because I'm like, oh, wait, isn't that something kind of weird? And then I just look at the plot. So I'm just reading this plot as I'm going along. And here's the plot of I Dream of Mimi. A young student named Akira has saved up a large sum of money to buy and this is also from Wikipedia. A young student named Akira has saved a large sum of money to buy the latest and best personal computer, only to find out that they are sold out. He then finds what he thinks is the same model number in an alley and buys the large boxed up machine from a shady character nearby. When he gets home, Akira is shocked to find his new computer is a bio-android shaped like a pretty young lady. He is even more shocked to discover when she tells him he constantly needs a semen in order to refresh her physical memory.
Yeah, so for reference, for those who don't know, Pink Pineapple does hentai OVAs.
Yes. Yeah. So because I was like, okay, this just seems okay from that first thing, and then I read the last sentence. I'm like, okay, I know exactly what it is. But anyway, I'm sure his work's perfectly fine. So yes, yeah. So yeah, that's Kaoru Shintani. So Area 88 was definitely his most popular work, and it was brought over to OVA form by Studio Perio. Worked on it. Same people who did Salamander. It's also the same director as Salamander, Hisayuki Toriumi, I believe. Who also, one thing I did actually forget to point out in some other things that he worked on, Hisayuki Toriumi. He did work on Gatchaman. He also worked on Battle of the Planets, apparently. He was a director for it.
Well, Battle of the Planets, wasn't that just Gatchaman, but brought over to the West, technically?
Now that I think about it, I believe that was. So
yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Because it's weird that I'm getting completely different information from IMDb and my anime's my anime list. So I apologize in advance if it turns out that some of this information may be wrong, but I am getting completely different mixed signals between these two sites. But anyway, that is the same production studio, or the same production staff behind that. There was also a Yuji Nunikawa, who worked as he was a producer for the Area 88 OVAs. Looking through here, other work that he did. He is apparently planning for Great Teacher Onizuka. Let's see. Anything else? Same Naruto. Actually, I think I brought him up during the other thing. Yeah. So he also worked on Salamander.
Yeah.
So yes. So oddly enough, some of the same same staff as Salamander, although it comes up with a completely different product. Oddly enough.
I still think that's because, strictly speaking, they actually had source material to work with for this and actually base their stuff off of, compared to Salamander / Gradius, which is incredibly plot light.
To this, which is incredibly plot dense.
Exactly. Like, because this is based off of a manga with extensive source material. This is years in the making.
Although, to be fair, it also looks a lot better.
It does. It looks a lot better.
It's so much better.
Yes. So, that is your production. That's kind of the people who are working in production. There is definitely more information on music, though. The music in this thing is phenomenal. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Starting out, because this starts out in kind of an in media res kind of thing, where you see the main protagonist engaging in a gunfight and then refueling. Then it starts out with what looks like flames in the background to the song How Far to Paradise by Derek Jackson, who was, I believe, I can't find much information about him, but let's listen to a little bit of How Far from Paradise.
So good.
I'll reach my destination. Lord, it's a long and lonely road. How far to paradise? How far to paradise?
It just threw us off so completely when it came on, right as we started.
Yeah, it did, because it's like you hear this orchestral kind of thing before this, and then you hear this. Like, it was just a complete tonal shift.
Also, you see tanks rolling and firing and shit too. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And it makes perfect thematic sense with the entirety of the OVA.
Oh,
and
yes.
It's the tone completely for how the rest of the series goes.
Also, another great tonal kind of thing is the ending song for the second OVA, which is the song Long Ago and So Far Away.
Sometimes at night, when the hour is late, I lay awake with a tear on my face, close my eyes and pretend back through time I go drifting again, back to a place that lives on evergreen, back to a time when my heart was at peace, when someone cared for me with a mother's love. Long ago and so far away, memories take me home.
So yeah, that is that song. But then another really good song. I kind of normally was kind of hesitant about whether or not I'm going to play these, but considering no one can figure out who owns the rights in any way, I don't think we should have to worry about playing these very much.
Yeah, it's not like this is some big licensed music.
Yeah, we're not. Also, this isn't going to get uploaded to Twitch again, so it depends on how good iTunes is about this kind of stuff, which I have heard very other things, so I don't think that should be an issue.
You're probably fine considering kind of shit that gets on iTunes.
Yeah, they literally don't care.
But yes, the third song I do want to point out is the opening song to the OVA 3, which is Sand of Illusion, which is a fantastic song. So just to point out, So Long Ago and So Far Away was apparently produced by, let's see, we got Shima Kitsuhara, I believe that's how you pronounce that, and Sands of Illusion was done by the same person. So Shima Kitsuhara did both.
Neat.
So yes, that is the music, which brings us to, let's actually talk about kind of in general what Area 88 is. So, Area 88 focuses on one Shin Kazama. Shin Kazama was a very promising pilot for Yamato Airlines. He was in training to be a very good pilot for them. The thing is that Shin, who is this is where the voice is kind of weird, because let's see, if I go to casting characters, or let's see, characters and staff, I believe Shin Kazama was voiced by Chris in the English dub, voiced apparently by Chris Patton. Who, going through here, let's see, we got that name sounds familiar. I just gotta figure out what he did. Actually, I probably could figure out here through IMDb. I bet
I'm sure he's done a lot of stuff.
Let's see, what is his known for? And of course, IMDb is going to be a pain.
Yeah, it's shit in the bed.
Let's see if I can find. Let's see. Okay, he is Greed in Full Metal Alchemist. He is Yugunai in Spriggan. He is Turles in the Funimation dub of Dragon Ball Z Might at Tree of Might.
Yeah, but it's one of the movies.
He's Linhart in Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Also, Carnival, he's William Massachusetts in Log Horizon.
Yeah!
So that's that. In Japan, he is voiced by Kaneto. What's it? That is Kaneto Shinzawa. Let's see. What do we got here? Just looking for where it says main. I am not seeing anything that jumps out at me immediately. Oh, actually, I take that back. He was in one of those Lupin the Third movies. Apparently, he did Goemon Ishikawa. He is. Yeah, none of these. It did not look like he did anything that's sticking out to me, at least. So yes, basically Shin was an ace pilot, and he was duped by his. Basically, he and his friend Satoru Kanzaki, when they graduated from pilot school, got drunk one night in Paris. Unfortunately, while this is going on, Kanzaki had a plan, and Kanzaki is voiced by. Let's see, does it list him here? Satoru Kanzaki, voiced in English by Jason Douglas. Who did? Let's see. He's Beerus.
Oh.
Also Krieg in Borderlands 3. And also Tobin from The Walking Dead. Also, let's see. Well, this IMDb has it listed as Krieg from Borderlands 3. Also, apparently, just does acting stuff because he's also in like Nashville. He was in The Walking Dead, as I said, I think. Yeah. So he's done some stuff. Let's see. And his Japan voice is Mayumi Tanaka. Who, looking from here, is apparently it's Krillin. The Japanese voice Krillin is the evil bad guy. That's kind of funny, actually.
That's really good, actually.
Yeah, that's really good.
Also it's Luffy the Monkey from One Piece too.
I'm sorry, what?
Wow, this was definitely a turn from him.
Yeah.
Or is that just his kid voice? That could just be his kid voice. Because it doesn't list it here.
Huh. Still.
Yeah, it doesn't list it here. So yes, Kanzaki is a bad guy, and what he does is because Kanzaki is jealous that Shin is the target of affection from the Yamato Airlines president's daughter, Ryoko, who is voiced in English by. This is listed here as either Wendy Welker or Hilary Hagg. I don't know why there's two English voices, because I don't think we see her as a kid.
It could be the second dub.
That could be, but it's really weird how it's inconsistent like that. Actually, if I look up Area 88 2004, I bet you it would tell me. It would be the same actress. Bear with me for a moment. She's not listed. Well, anyway, Ryoko basically, is really in love with Shin, and things happen later on. She might really, really, really like Shin. So yes, and that pisses off Kanzaki. And so Kanzaki signs or gets Shin drunk, and has Shin sign a contract to serve as a mercenary for the Foreign Legion for the Aslan Royal Forces. Aslan being a fictional country, which it's weird because it's not super consistent about where it is, because sometimes I've heard it referred to as North Africa, but it's most likely Middle East. They don't explicitly say where it is, but it is somewhere in one of those two regions. Most likely the Middle East. Basically after that, Shin is not very happy to be enlisted in to be a fighter for this place that he has not heard of. At the station where he is at is Area 88. That is where the Area 88 comes from. Area 88 has some interesting characters in there, like Vietnam pilot or ex-Vietnam pilot, or ex-Vietnam American pilot, Mickey Simon, who Mickey Simon is voiced by John Swayze. John Swayze, who is also voiced. Yeah, I really wish IMDb was faster. Come on. He was, let's see. Is Van Honenheim from Full Metal Alchemist?
Hohenheim, yeah.
He was in Dazed and Confused. He was the beer delivery guy, apparently. Oh, he's All for One in My Hero Academia.
Like you do.
Okay.
Let's see. He is some guy in Attack on Titan. Going through here. Not see. Oh, he's in Flip Flappers. He does voices for that.
Oh.
Probably the most recent ones. I'm not super familiar with some of these. So yeah, he definitely does voices for anime. Mickey Simon is basically kind of Shin's best friend, kind of there. He is somewhat kind of cocky. But he is also one of the other big players there is Greg Gates, who is a Danish. I don't know if they go into what exactly he did before, but he is basically this bearded man who basically is very boisterous, very almost Brian Blessed is kind of. I think I might actually, unfortunately, have to skip the voice actor's career because this is just not very confusing.
Also, for reference, the Ryoko we heard us hear was Hilary Haig,
Oh, okay. That makes
who's
sense.
done a lot of stuff.
Yes.
I just closely associate her voice with the dub of Ghost Stories because I'm a broken human being. Wherein she played the main character.
Oh boy. So yes, there are the kind of, and those are kind of the most important people. There are like the Shin's greatest allies, I guess. There is also another ally who, at first glance, looks very unfortunate, by the name of McCoy. If you were to just see him out of the blue, you would kind of see I mean, there's no way to say it. He looks like a Jewish stereotype.
You're saying that because of the nose.
Yes. He looks very much like Watto. But no, he is actually kind of a shifty kind of dealer, but he is actually very good at heart. So he's not that bad of a character. Also, the other main big important character is the leader of Area 88, and that is Saki. He is this he's very tall, very long hair, and he has a X-shaped scar on his forehead. He is the
Boy
leader.
howdy, it's a lot of forehead.
Yeah, he has a lot of forehead. And he is the leader, and he is also, while seeming kind of cold at first, he is actually much more compassionate towards his soldiers as you would initially believe. So yeah, that is kind of the main set of characters in Area 88. There's, of course, more other characters that come along, as I guess we'll kind of discuss as we kind of go through out these kind of OVAs episodes. So, first episode, which is Burning Skies of Betrayal. As we mentioned, starts out with Shin getting into a dogfight with several other fighters, and him kind of landing and piloting. There, he is met by a reporter who has recently come to Area 88. A reporter by the name of Rocky, who I guess is covering this for. I don't think they say where he's for, but yeah, he is just a reporter that has come to Area 88 to basically document what's going on there, and he kind of takes a fascination with Shin because he is also Japanese, so it's kind of fascinating for him to see another Japanese person there. So he kind of comes up to Shin and basically starts to so yeah, he just kind of talks to him and comes to understand like what he is doing and what he's doing there, and you kind of realize Shin is very good at killing people, much to his chagrin, because Shin has become a very ace pilot because he is trying to fulfill is basically when you sign up for Area 88, there are 3 criteria in which you can actually get out of Area 88. You can get out of your service. The first one is to serve the full tour duty, which is 3 years. The other one, which is the way that Shin's kind of focusing on, which is if you raise $1.5 million, you can buy out your contract. And I guess they pay out, and they for every mission they pay each people out because they are essentially mercenaries.
I think they said, or at least hinted at, that the going rate was like 10,000 a head or something like that.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
that sounds about right.
And then there is the third way, which is the hardest way, which is to defect. But if you do that, you're going to get pursued down, and you are likely going to die because they're very good at chasing people. So that is what you have to do to get out of Area 88. And we kind of see that Area 88 kind of has a pretty high turnover rate, at least with certain people, because we are introduced to a character by the name of Boris at this point. Now, Boris is referred to as the Angel of Death. He is, I believe it is UK. Has fought in several wars, I believe. I forgot exactly. I don't think they actually go into what war, but he is definitely he is kind of haunted by people he has left behind, as we'll see a little bit later on. But yeah, he's just really good at also fighting, much like Shin, and basically they kind of have a heart-to-heart, or Shin and Boris kind of talk to each other about how they kind of deal with having to kill people even though they really don't want to. So at this point, I believe we actually see our first mission, like proper mission, where they're just trying to destroy I believe it's just trying to destroy a base of the enemy. So
A rebel base, yeah.
the war that they are kind of essentially fighting is a civil war between the basically Aslan is going through a civil war, which Saki is basically on the side of the pro-government, and they are fighting anti-government forces. And the anti-government forces, the mission is to destroy one of their bases. So one of the bases, so during this mission, basically everyone, you kind of see a montage of everyone kind of suiting up and going to actually fly towards this mission. The thing is that this is where you first see one of the things this OVA really likes to do is this OVA has a fascination of watching planes blow up in very gory fashion.
It's fucking awesome.
It's great.
Because one of the traps that this space has is kind of weird and
It's a jungle gym.
Yeah, they have a jungle gym. Their defense is a jungle gym. They raise a jungle gym out of the ground.
It's a giant jungle gym.
And
It's just
one of the things about this, it's also in the manga, but this property in general is that this also has a fascination. Apparently, let's see, I forgot the manga artist's name. The manga artist was a huge fan of planes. So you see a lot of fancy planes throughout this thing. Shin, personally, or at this point, flies an F-8 Crusader. Mickey, and one of the things that Shin, she was like, oh, hey, here's how you can see as a good pilot, realizes, oh, hey, if I fold my plane's wings up just a little bit, I can actually fly through the jungle, this jungle gym, and also destroy everything in there. So Shin, flies up and is able to actually complete the mission, as well as I believe Mickey and Greg, I believe, also are able to do it as well. Yep. But the thing is that Boris is also with them, and he helps out. The problem is he's shot at this time, and at this, basically he realizes, okay, I'm about to die, and I'm basically going to give some life advice to Shin before I die.
Yeah, the shot goes directly through the canopy and grazes him.
I think it goes straight through his because you see him holding his chest and he's bleeding pretty badly.
Yeah, hit his shoulder area.
So yeah, at that point he, I think he passes out in the plane and basically just crashes.
Yep.
So yeah, and then you see Rocky talk to Shin while he's clearing out his room because I want to say that he was he was trying to was there something that he was trying to hold on to?
I'm trying to remember. I don't think so.
I don't remember.
Yeah. It
was just so inconsequential.
But yeah, then Rocky comes in and starts taking pictures, and Shin gets really pissed off, and Rocky starts to see the problems or that they're having. So he ends up seeing that. Then at that point, I believe this is where we learn the backstory of how Shin got into Area 88, where you see Kanzaki and Shin start to actually, the night in which Kanzaki signs Shin up with the military, which that's one thing that I've seen kind of level that does not make any sense, because I'm pretty sure any foreign legion would not just say, oh, hey, you signed this. This is now actually legal and we can force you to do this.
To be fair, A, it's anime, and B, they are desperate for bodies.
That's kind of the thing. So there is that. And I think at this point we start to see Ryoko and Shin meeting for the first time. where you basically see like they have like a meet cute where Ryoko thinks that Shin's actually the help, even though he's an actual student there that is pilot. And like there's a scene where it's kind of like, oh hey, Shin is like this pilot, but he's also afraid of roller coasters. And I'm pretty sure right immediately after that scene, they gets into a dogfight of him, in which he kills like 5 people.
Also, real quick, the dogfights look pretty good.
Yes,
They do. They always look good.
They spend a lot of money on those dogfight scenes. And I believe at this point, this is where they have one of the more interesting kind of missions. I can't remember if it's in the second or first OVA, but there is a mission that they have that there is a fuel reserve that's in a canyon. And basically, it's a very narrow canyon. And they need to get a bombing crew in there.
Might I add, they do this by using one of those projectors and just overlaying transparencies over it to show the depth and order, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Create a small box.
So yeah, basically, if you overlap because they have a cross section of what the canyon looks like, and they actually determine that there's actually a very small box that you could fit a plane through that they have to fly through at night. And it is essentially the Star Wars Death Trench, except much scarier.
To be fair, the entirety of Area 88 is essentially their Suicide Squad.
Yes.
So they have this mission, and basically, it's like, 6 people that die in this thing out of like the 12?
I'd argue it's more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, 6 that we at least see.
Yes. So, kind of the main people kind of go through. So, Shin, Mickey, and Greg, and I think there's a few other of the more recurring people also make it through. But then the problem is at the end, they realize that, oh wait, this actually was a trap, and there's a bunch of Harriers that's just waiting for them to do that. And then Shin and Mickey get into some good dogfights. Actually, now that I realize it, I think this is that actually might be in 3 now that I think about it. Or that might be a different mission. Yeah. Anyway, there's that mission, which is pretty good. There is also, at that point, basically it shows that Shin is racking up the kills, and he's actually almost ready to go home. Except then he gets into a dogfight, realizes that he's out of ammo in his F-8 Crusader. The thing is that the other ship or plane that he's fighting against kind of gets the upper hand and unfortunately knocks Shin down, so destroys his F-8. So that means Shin has to buy a new plane, which depletes a lot of his funds. And at this point, he is very upset about that, oddly enough. And then he realizes, like, you know what? I'm going to steal one of these planes at night, and I'm going to go ahead and defect. The thing is also around this time is that there is a side plot about 3 African pilots that have suddenly shown up. And then Mickey recognizes them as the Escape Killers. And they are basically mercenaries that are very good at hunting down people who are about to defect. And then basically Shin gets into kind of a confrontation with them before he starts to run away. And then everyone comes out of the woodwork and backs up Shin. And is like, oh no, Shin wasn't going to defect, right? Right? And then basically they warn them off, and then basically they end up going away. And that is the end. I believe that is the end of OVA 1. Because OVA 2 starts out with a banger, which basically, I think that is the one that just straight up starts out with, I believe it is one of the pilots ends up taking Rocky out for a trip in his plane to kind of take pictures from a long distance away.
Oh no, doesn't the second part just start with a bombing run by
Yeah,
Wolf
just
Daddy set to
yeah.
speed metal.
Yeah, that's what. The
No,
second one-
I thought that was 3.
No,
The,
no,
the,
that's-
Oh, okay.
that's the second half.
So the second OVA, yes, that starts out with there is a. Oh right. So yeah, because that leads up to something. So yeah, the second OVA ends up. It starts with there is a enemies of the Aslan army. There is a section of fighters that they have called the Wolf Pack. That basically they are basically these really competent fighters that end up doing a bombing run.
Headed up by a man whose call sign is Wolf Daddy.
Yes. They end up doing a bombing run on Area 81, I believe. So fun
Which is a
fact,
communications base.
the fun fact about that is, if I remember correctly reading from the manga of this, that is something they changed in the OVA. I think in the manga, a nuke goes off.
Oh Jesus.
oh God.
Yeah, no, because I think in the previous episode they had described all the areas, all the 80 areas, and I think 81 was either they just didn't have anything really notable, it was a small base, or it was a communications base. I can't really remember.
Something like that. But yeah, they have a strafing, like they get bombed, essentially. And then that is where I believe at that point, that is where Rocky is taken up on a plane trip, or like to take some photos. However, they get into a dogfight. Unfortunately, in order to evade, the pilot has to basically go at a extremely high altitude. The problem is, in order to evade, they have to go straight up. And unfortunately, they do that for far too long, and you get to see both of them, both the pilot and Rocky, eventually experience redout. So they end up stalling. Both of them pass out. I think it might be implied that Rocky at that point has gone blind. And then basically they both die. So Rocky's just
Also,
dead.
once again, I cannot emphasize this enough. During the bombing run, it was playing fucking speed metal.
Yes.
I cannot emphasize this enough.
So yes, that is when they kind of fight the wolf pack. Or that is when that
First
happens.
encounter with the Wolfpack.
Yep. Because at that point there is another mission that I believe this is where you also see some dealings with Ryoko, where it actually turns out that Kanzaki is also working with a shady company that is working to kind of underhandedly get Kanzaki's trying to buy Yamato Airlines out from underneath the current president. And apparently that works because he at that point becomes the president of Yamato Airlines. So Ryoko's father is no longer in the picture, and basically in order to get basically she now has to deal with him now. So there is at that point, but one of the things that before Rocky died, he was able to get some pictures of Area 88 sent to a magazine, in which Ryoko sees that. Like she kind of like takes a look at a random picture and like, oh wait, that is totally Shin. So she is now on the hunt for she and her Ryoko and her basically her I think it was her father's secretary, but kind of turns out to be her companion, Teiko, who's kind of a slightly older woman who looks very secretarial.
Glasses and everything.
Yeah, she kind of looks
wears
like
a bun.
Yes. So she is basically they're trying to help or figure out where is Shin. The thing is also Kanzaki also sees that picture and realizes, oh wait, Shin is actually doing way too well in Area 88. So he actually uses some contacts of his to actually talk to what apparently is like a mob boss, it seemed like. And
I thought it was just a
essentially
contract killer.
so yeah, he ends up talking to a
a
contract.
middleman. He talks to a middleman essentially.
Right. Because I know he talks with mob bosses in the manga, but I don't know if that's exactly who it was supposed to be.
Yeah,
in the
no, and this
OVA.
it seemed like it was more like just some sort of middleman to get in contact with the contract killer.
So, at that point, there is suddenly a new face at the someone new has signed up for Area 88. I believe it's like Charlie the Phoenix. I believe his name, something like
Something
that.
stupid like that.
Yeah.
And basically, he's kind of introduced, and he's apparently an old friend of Mickey's, actually. And he is now signed up at Area 88. The thing is also, at this point, they decided, like, okay, we are going to... the Wolfpack is now descending, apparently, onto Area 88. They now have to kind of sortie out and actually kind of take them down. So, with that... everyone is basically in their plane. They all have this massive dogfight, which is very, very messily depicted. People are getting shot through their planes. Planes are... Oh, also, I should mention, Shin did lose his F8. But at the start of the second OVA, he does get his new plane, which is one of his more signature planes, which is the I believe it's the F-20 Tiger Shark. I believe is the plane that he gets.
It is the Tiger Shark.
Yep, it's the Tiger Shark.
So he gets that plane, and he's now using that in this fight. And he's doing good work. They end up taking, I believe, a good majority of the Wolfpack, if not all of them. Area 88 takes quite a few casualties, but they all end up winning in the end. The problem is that Charlie, or I really should look up to see, one of us is going to have to look that up. But he uses this opportunity to do some friendly fire and ends up downing Shin's ship, or Shin's plane. However, Shin manages to kind of not coerce him, but he basically he gets the guy's plane down to basically almost sea level. And there just happens to be this giant flock of seagulls that's right below, or that's right behind Shin's plane when it inevitably his plane explodes, and Shin is able to eject. The problem is that the flock of seagulls go straight into his plane. And
just punches through that canopy, yeah.
Punches through the canopy, punches through him, and basically he just sinks into the water and just explodes.
It's a really fucking unceremonious death. It's great.
So unfortunately, that means Shin is now stranded in the desert, and he is,
and everyone assumes him to be dead too.
Yes. So he's walking through the desert. He's kind of using a little bit of training in order to kind of walk as far away as he can. He's like, okay, you know what? I'm just walking here, and if I end up somewhere else, I just want to end up somewhere else, I am actually going to defect again this time. So then you see about 10 minutes of him having mirages in the desert and walking through the desert.
So he got Hitchcocked?
Yes, kind of. So there is that.
He just keeps going and
he keeps going, walking to the thing, and then it's at night.
He runs out of water, runs out of food.
Yep. So then you see him, and he comes across a settlement in which you see him being very dismayed.
It's not just that he comes across a settlement, you see him climb a dune and then just start to freak out.
Because what happened is he managed to bumble his way back to Area 88.
And then Half Our Paradise just starts playing as he just walks down the strip.
Yep.
Losing his fucking mind, realizing he can't escape.
And that is the end of OVA 2.
It's so fucking brutal.
It just...
Yeah, that is a pretty brutal end to OVA 2. But then OVA 3 starts with Stand of Illusion playing, and it's the middle of a dogfight. And that is where you also, like... Whereas OVA ended pretty brutal, this starts pretty brutal, because what happened in this one is that they are in a dogfight, and they are coming in the middle of a dogfight. Shin is working with another pilot whose name I forgot. I'll have to look that up. But the problem is, the pilot ends up getting shot and ends up taking a bullet through his eyes. So he is, taking a bullet that blinds him, essentially. So
It's
he's
very graphic too.
Yeah, so he is now blinded in a plane. He is the only pilot of that plane.
And like a jackass, he starts firing.
Well, that is after
all over the
that is where he also gets shot in the arm. So he ends up firing all over the place. Yeah, so he is ending up freaking out, which makes Shin realize something. He has to kill him. Like, he has to kill his teammate because he's going to kill someone else. Like, he was trying to guide him down, but then he's like, okay, this isn't going to work. And he ends up just straight up, like, using his, like, machine guns to just barrel through this plane and just utterly kills him. It is very unsettling. And this is where they come back, and Shin is very aptly traumatized by this. But this is also where we meet basically the OVA third OVA's newest character, and kind of who ends up being the kind of pseudo villain, or like, I guess, rival of this villain, or this episode, and it is a Vietnamese pilot, I believe was it Nguyen Van Com, I believe?
Nguyen.
Nguyen. Nguyen.
Okay, Nguyen. Yeah, Nguyen Van Com is basically an ex-Vietnamese. He ended up actually, in the Vietnam War, he actually fought with Mickey a few times. Or against Mickey a few times. But he was like this very brutal pilot who ends up like, oh, what do you mean? How are you able to just take down your teammate like that? And basically just ends up getting into trying to dig his nails into Shin. Or basically being...
Otherwise, he seems pretty, like, personable, but it's just... He likes to pick at Shin, specifically.
Yes.
Because Shin is essentially... I wouldn't say in denial, but he actively rejects what this guy enjoys, essentially.
He is essentially... It seems like Shin is kind of going through a dissociative issue.
Yes,
Like
absolutely, he's dissociating.
He is starting to have major problems with kind of realizing, or like major mental problems at this point.
Oh yeah, especially like the onset of PTSD as well.
Yes. So,
whereas this guy is essentially a foil to Shin.
Yeah. It is also at this point where Shin runs into McCoy, who McCoy ends up, like, talks to Shin about, like, oh, hey, I read something in a paper, something about a Yamato Airlines is having this issue, or like they're getting a new president or something. And basically, Shin has McCoy look into what's going on and basically finds out the issue of Kanzaki. Actually, I just realized we missed something big that happened in OVA 2. The dumbest thing I think that happened. One of the dumbest things. Because... So Kanzaki was acting as a pilot, and Saki at some point had to go to France because I believe he is looking into a place where he can store his father, because he is a political just in case things go south.
His uncle, not his father. His father is leading the rebel army.
Right. So there, when he's coming from Paris to Tel Aviv, someone ends up planting a bomb.
That was actually...
Or was it OVA 3?
That was OVA 2.
Okay.
That was before that entire Wolfpack arc.
Okay, I knew I missed something, I just forgot what. But yes, so in that, there is a... They plant a bomb on the plane that Saki's on. Oh yeah, 2 of them. And basically, Saki ends up talking to the pilots and actually contacts Area 88 and says, hey, there's bombs on these planes. Can you do anything about it? And through a convoluted scheme, basically Mickey and Shin shoot bombs off of a plane.
While flying upside down.
It is the most anime-ass thing this series does.
weird disconnect from the rest of the series, like totally, because it's just them being big damn heroes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It is, but also it just feels very wrong in comparison to everything else, aside from that bombing run by the Wolf Pack by Wolf Daddy.
Yes.
I
Oh,
will
and
never
also-
not get over that name.
Also, Ryoko and her friend are also on this plane.
Yes, that
Yes.
too. And at the very end, you see Shin fly through the thing, and you see him look at the plane, and it almost looks like, even though they are thousands of feet apart, that Ryoko and Shin see each other, although it is not quite the case. But it's
Behold
really
my telescopic eyes.
yes. So that's all of what happens in OVA 2. So in OVA 3, or back to OVA 3, at that point, we also, I believe it's also, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3, where we actually see that Kanzaki and Shin actually grew up in the same orphanage.
I don't really remember which one that was, but I know
Yeah,
what
I
you
don't-
mean.
Yeah.
Because it was such like a weird, out of nowhere scene. I think that was in 3.
And here's
Yeah.
the thing. So Kanzaki just got there because his parents died, and then Shin's like, "Oh, what's it like having a mother?" And he's just like, and then Shin's like, "Yeah, I just never knew my parents. I've been an orphan forever." And this is where we learn why Kanzaki screwed over Shin, is that he can't imagine, he hates anyone that has things better than him.
He has this weird superiority complex, and it is ridiculous.
Yes. We also find there's another subplot that goes down with Kanzaki that is much more sinister. Basically, Ryoko and Teiko find out that that they can buy out Shin's contract, essentially. And basically they are trying to raise up money to get the contract bought. And basically they're trying to buy up sell the shares of Yamato Airlines in order to raise enough money. Unfortunately, they could not find enough people, so they have to go to Kanzaki for it.
Well, it's that it wasn't the issue. The issue is they want to sell their shares. But the problem is Kanzaki. They still want to believe in Kanzaki, and they figure Kanzaki could give them the best rate for their shares. And then we go into this.
Yes, so basically, Kanzaki's like, okay, I'll give you the money if you sleep with me. So that is a subplot that is going down, and basically Ryoko just kind of flat out refuses at first, or refuses.
Yeah, it's I'll buy your shares at above the going rate.
Yes. So there's that going on in the background. Then there is another dogfight, I believe, just another mission going on to destroy, I believe, fuel reserves, or something like that. This is where we see. I already forgot his Yen?
Nguyen.
Nguyen's with them with a dogfight, and basically they are fighting these people. And then you get to see kind of the sadistic thing about him is basically he's having like a huge bloodlust kind of thing about trying to destroy as many people as possible. The thing is that one of the people that he ends up fighting with ejects from his plane. So, and it's also, this is at the point where you see like what possibly could be one of the more brutal plane ripping apart things. So you just start seeing like planes just being ripped apart in such more graphic detail, it seems, than even normal. But then at this point, you see one guy that's just flying around in like, it's in his ejecting seat. So he's parachuting down, and you just see him fly slowly to the ground. And then you see Nguyen just have the biggest smile on his face, and he just rips the guy apart with his machine gun. And then you just see the limp body in the seat for like 5 seconds, and then just falls.
Yeah, it was like surprisingly brutal.
So you get to see that is where he is kind of brutal. I'm just trying to remember what else happened in that. Because basically it's turning out that Area 88 is starting to almost seem like it's losing a little bit.
Yeah, 3 flows into 4 very easily, so it's easy to lose.
What seems like what would be a 4 if it existed. Oh, there is also the other part where Mickey and Shin go on a little mini vacation to go into the actual town.
Yeah, and we see Mickey's ex-wife.
Yes. Or ex-fiance.
Ex-fiance, yes.
Because the story of Mickey is that basically when he got done with Vietnam, basically he realized that I think it was like a mix of PTSD and just so used to the war and like the brutality of it that he just couldn't deal with. Because I believe he was also from money, is what it seemed like he was. It kind of was hinting at.
Yeah. He couldn't get used to a civilian life.
So he signs up for Area 88. But yeah, he runs into his ex-fiance there, who's with her new husband. So,
and they both realize who the other is, but neither of them say anything, and they just move on with their lives.
Yep. This is also where you learn about the history between like what Saki and his family and what's going on with the Civil War, where it's basically it's like Saki's father was more of a trying to remember what it was.
The crux of the issue was that basically Western forces want to come in, and I believe that.
Well, no, it's basically it was a war of succession. The second prince felt basically.
Well, the first prince, because he got the first prince got disinherited from the throne, and then decided to declare war.
Yep. He felt slighted because he wasn't the heir, is the thing.
Yeah. And basically they wanted like American companies or like Western companies to start coming in.
I don't remember the exact reason he got ousted, but I don't think that was it. It's then he started the revolution, and that's when the companies came in to help him out.
Yes.
And so at this point you learn that they are actually getting the upper hand.
Yep.
You also learn that the company that your boy Kanzaki sold out to is the one providing them arms. Well, one of the ones providing them arms.
Yes. Is also, speaking of that, there is also another plot point that happens because at the Yamato Airlines is now investing in that company's new plane, which you get to see.
Yeah.
You get to see a scene of, or they have a thing where it's like, oh yeah, I've heard it's something that McCoy actually talks to Shin about, where it's basically, oh yeah, I've heard that they're starting to use this new kind of plane, but if you want to take my advice or hear what I think, basically, that plane is like meeting the bare minimum of quality assurance. Like they're not even hitting it a good amount of the time.
It's not even like an opinion thing. It's like that's the word going around, is that actually it's riddled with defects and problems, and it just barely meets the inspection standards.
Yep, and then you see a scene of like a whole bunch of families in one of these planes as it goes down into Tokyo Harbor, and and everyone dies.
Yep.
And then basically there's a huge press release about that, and then
huge scandal, yeah, and the stocks tank. And so, this is important. Yes.
So it is at that point where basically Ryoko is like, okay, there is no way that I'm getting more money out of these stocks. I am going to have to take Kanzaki on his offer. So you get to see a scene of Ryoko very, very not happy about taking up his offer, like going into his hotel room, Kanzaki being incredibly shitty about it. And he's like, oh, you want to go take a shower? Go do this? And then basically Kanzaki is like gloating to himself like that's like, oh yeah, I'm basically taking Shin's woman, essentially, like in the most mustache
defiling
possible.
her, yeah.
Yeah, like the most mustache.
Also, this scene goes on for really long.
Yes. So you see also Ryoko start to undress and take like getting ready for a shower, and you see her like nude, like in front of the mirror, like drawing on the mirror, like wondering if is this really the right thing. But then at that point, she hears knocking on the door, and she sees someone barge in, and she falls down, and it's Teiko. Teiko is there with the cops because they are now arresting Kanzaki for very many crimes that he is doing. Or like he is basically Teiko has been doing research into Kanzaki and basically got enough information to bust him. So she managed to save Ryoko out of that.
Yeah. So did you mention why they needed the money?
It's so that they can buy out Shin's contract, isn't it?
No. Well, yes, but the reason they didn't have any money to begin with, despite being rich, and the reason her father got ousted from the CEO-ship, was specifically because he had been having heart problems and had to go out to France to see a doctor.
Right.
And was now living there.
Yep. So they are now in France. So I think it's this point where is this basically where it starts to wind down?
Yeah, this is where it starts to wind down, because I think this is...
So, kind of out of nowhere after the arrest, basically, Saki comes to, or Shin brings Saki, or Saki brings Shin in, and basically says, okay, I'm giving you this mission. You are to provide escort to my uncle. He is going to live in France now, just to make sure that he is safe. Also, you no longer have to fulfill your contract. You are free. Just out of nowhere.
Well, yeah, it's you are escorting the now standing king to France for political asylum, and once you're done, your contract is officially up with us.
Yes. So it's like, oh, Shin is now leaving Area 88. So you get the scene of basically him packing up, and it's like, oh, I'm really going home, and Win is like provides one last kind of attempt to like rub it in. And it's like, oh, actually no, I take that back. Before he leaves, there is more recruits that show up in Area 88.
Oh God, you're right.
And one of them, Shin notices, is a Japanese man. And basically things happen, and I think that is this happens in between the arrest, arrest. So basically, once that happens, Shin gets brought, or someone goes up to Shin. I think it's just one of the guards, and goes up to Shin. And he's like, "Oh, by the way, we have an issue with a defector." And it's not, and Shin's like, oh, you want me to go search for a defector? That's not what we do. He's like, no, we already caught him. It's the Japanese guy. He wants to talk to you. And all the Japanese guy wants to do is just look at Shin and wonder, what does the Japanese man look like that actually does this and doesn't run away? Just basically drills into Shin and is like, why are you doing this? This is not how you should act.
Like I may be dying, but at least I'm not a killer.
Yes, like really hones that in, like in like a 5-minute scene of this, and then immediately after that, you just see Shin just standing in that room as you kind of hear him be executed in the next room.
Yeah, you hear him yelling and screaming, and then the gunfire.
Yeah,
as he's killed by a firing squad.
Yep. So then, going back to when Shin is leaving. There's a scene where Shin is actually like leaving, and then everyone else at the base flies in their plane to kind of guide him towards the border, essentially. And you get to see like everyone's like saying goodbye, one last goodbye, and they're like, oh yeah, don't worry, we're not defecting, we're just leaving Shin off. And then they leave to Shin does his duty, and basically you see Shin start to like get to the airport and he gets his kind of stuff back. He's like, oh hey, I'm free. But then he's walking throughout the town and starts...
Also, he basically says to them that, because they make an offer and basically say, we'll look for a buyer for your tiger shark if you want. He's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead and sell it.
So then he's walking through the town and tries to... he actually got Ryoko's phone number. Or I believe it's meant to be like the father's phone number from McCoy. To try and they end up trying... He tries to call Ryoko. She's not available. So he keeps on walking. No, I believe actually that's at this point where she tries to... No, I think there's something else going on there.
Yeah, no, she missed calls the first time. They're not there at home because then it comes the next time. She's walking around some more, just still stressed.
And she's not home this time because they go out to eat to celebrate.
Yep.
Because her father was in a clean bill of medical health. And then at this point, some thugs, some just people trying to pick up and try to beat up Shin, who at this point's like, okay, come on, you think that you scare me?
Yeah.
And then just randomly,
yeah,
there's a bank robbery going on.
Yeah, and one of the, like, he picks up one of the thug's knives, or like kind of pries it off of him. And then you see Shin with like a devious grin on his face as you see this bank drivers drive towards them. Shin just throws the knife into the driver's shoulder and causes him to crash. Like this most implausible nonsense.
And then he gets picked up by the police.
Yep.
And they tell him, hey, buddy, you don't officially exist here. What you did is not on the records because that could cause problems. So leave the country.
Yep.
And we will let you off.
Yep. So then that happens, and then all the while there's this going on, Shin is just he is completely baffled of what to do. He is still PTSD driven. He just does not know what to do. And right after that happens, he calls the people back up that he talked to that were selling his plane. And he's like, you know what? Don't worry about finding a buyer. I know exactly what I'm doing with it.
At the same time this is happening.
Yeah, I was going to say, at the same time this is happening, basically, Saki is talking to everyone rounds up everyone at the base saying, hey, so all the armed forces are attacking the town, and they're all coming after us. They're doing one last raid. We do not have the reserves to fight this. This is going to, if we fight, we are going to die.
Well, yeah, at this point also, he says essentially the country has already fallen and they have won.
Yes. So basically, we've lost. If you get caught, you're going to die. So basically, what you're going to do is you're going to get in your plane and you're going to fly away.
Just going to fuck off.
But then...
Everyone fly to Switzerland, I think it was.
Something like that. But then at the same time, everyone's like, nah, we're fine. We're fine this. We don't have anywhere else to go. We're ending with this. And then basically... There's a scene of everyone basically engaging in including Saki, by the way. Like, Saki is also in air. To be fair,
Saki's got nothing to live for at this point.
Yeah. So they're engaging in a dogfight like that. And everyone, like, you see almost everyone die except for... You don't see Mickey and Greg die, and you don't see Saki die.
You don't see a good chunk of them die, actually. It's just this big damn heroes moment as they're fighting back.
But
then we cut...
Oh, also one thing so right when you see this happen, you see Shin, like, make one last phone call to Ryoko, and she manages to pick up this time. So Shin, like, manages to get a word, it's like, oh, Ryoko. And then you just hear, like, Ryoko, like, plead to Shin, like, oh, where are you? Where is this? We can come pick you up. And then you just see Shin just look kind of blankly at the phone, and he just hangs up. It's like, nope, I'm going back to Area 88. And then Ryoko is like, Shin, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Just crying into the phone and trying to run after him. And then Shin just goes back into the cab, and you see him realize what he's done, but he just goes back. Then you see him flying in his Tiger Shark back to Area 88, which is now going to be demolished.
No. You see him flying back to Area 88, cut to credits.
Yep.
Yeah, not even him getting to the fight, just not even any kind of closure on that. Just fly across the screen, then cut to credits. It's the worst fucking, like...
There was nothing satisfying about that ending. Like, it was astounding how unsatisfying that ending was.
So, yeah, and that's how the OVAs end. So I did a little bit of research to kind of look at like the source material a little bit. So that does kind of happen in the manga, but the thing is that the Area 88 getting like that one last thing does not happen at all. So Area 88 just exists at this point. Like Shin does do the thing where he flies away and is relieved, but does come back. Like that does happen, but it also like that is like the halfway point in the manga.
It's just such a weird ending.
It's actually kind of an interesting cutoff because now that we've talked about the OVAs, I do kind of want to discuss how this ties into the games themselves, because it actually turns out that the story of that the games is based on an arc that happens, I think, right exactly where the OVA ends, or would have ended, like where it does in the manga. Because what it turns out happens is that, you know, the arms dealer that they mention that's like is selling arms in the middle in this conflict. Kanzaki ends up getting ousted from Yamato Airlines and ends up working with the lead for that company. And they end up forming a new project, which they call Project 4. Project 4 is basically this is when the point in the manga where it starts becoming anime as hell, because that is when they start bringing in the sci-fi stuff. Like, say, because if you play the game, like, you see, like, the land carrier, where you see, like, it is an aircraft carrier that is just rolling in the desert and is shooting, that has a bunch of Harriers that are all remote controlled. Like, that is what the arc of the manga that happens right after the OVA would have ended happens. Which is, I think, is just kind of funny. Though one thing I do think that there is I do believe the fight with the wolf pack does show up, and I believe in the SNES game. I don't think it does in the arcade game, though. But yeah, that is the Area 88 OVAs. That is what.
Also, I realize that we forgot something.
What did we forget?
So during the bombing run in the canyon, at one point they need to pull up to leave, and they get attacked by Harriers.
Yep, I think we did mention that.
I don't think we did, but
well, I think we mentioned that they got trapped, but I don't think. Yes, they are Harriers.
Specifically Harriers.
Yes. Also, we should point out, because I don't think we did. This takes place in late 70s.
Also, I'm pretty sure the photographer and the pilot got gunned down in the field. That had nothing to do with Redout. The Redout came because when they were avoiding the Harriers, they needed to escape the missiles, and they needed to go high enough in altitude to get away from the missiles. So Redout was a distinct problem as they did it, but they didn't actually pass out or die from it.
Oh, okay.
Just like things are coming back to me at this point.
Yes. That's the problem, is that I realize I probably should
we need to take extensive notes next time, but either way.
Yes. Anyway, yes, that's Area 88. So that is what UN Squadron was based on.
It was really good until it stopped being good.
Yeah, until that last 20 minutes.
Yeah, we realized that we were able to just whittle it down to 20 minutes of bad, but that bad is just really bad.
Foul. Just, yeah.
So, yes. Well...
do we want to talk about the anime at all? Or the fact that it existed?
Because, I mean, at some point
Also
we
the
could go...
music.
Let's save that for we actually do the anime itself.
Yeah, because we could do that as its own kind of thing.
I need to hear that fucking music.
Unfortunately, I don't have it downloaded.
How dare you?
So yeah, let's stick it to the OVA for now. So let's actually go ahead and rank those. So our first entry in the essence category, because if this is your first, so the essence, because I believe this will be our first thing in the essence list, which these are basically these are going to be things that are basically media that has had games based on it. Basically games that try to capture the essence of these things. So let's see, Area 88. If we bring up our handy 1 to 21 scale, with 11 being the dead middle, and also rainbow colored, how do you two think this?
I'd say 10 maybe.
See, I would probably put it like a 8 or 9. I would put it higher, except for those last 20 minutes. Really, if it wasn't for those last 20 minutes, like if we just ended on episode 2 with just Shin walking back to Area 88 if we just ended there, I would put it right there at a 4. But
I would disagree. It was good, but it wasn't that good. But also just because it is like tonally kind of a hot mess.
Yeah.
Like there's some stuff in there that doesn't need to be there, and I feel brings it down. And not just that 20 minutes, like that entire plane thing didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be real, the entire Ryoko subplot amounts to nothing, which makes it feel really cheap.
Yeah.
Just things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, because I was thinking the 8, like I was thinking 8, so our above average. Because Torpo, you're saying probably.
I was saying like 10, but like 9 would also be fine by me.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. 8-9 range would be. Really
Yeah, I think 9's probably a good thing. It's still good, but it is definitely showing its age. It's also very
It's kind of messy.
yeah, in some points. So I just put it. Just double check to make sure what we put. 9. So we got a 9. Got Area 88. This is episode 2. This originally came out in 1985. Director, I'm actually just gonna copy and paste from Salamander. This was in fact an OVA. Let's see.
War. This is definitely a war.
Yeah. Or tone.
Where's the like?
Because
Where's the like grim? This is tonally kind of just.
we have
brutal.
sadness.
Yeah, sadness works.
Now here's the question. Because there's 2 ways. So Area 88, the game, comparing this to that, would you rather play the game or watch this? Now the thing is that there are 2 games that we're comparing this to. There's the arcade game, which I believe that is in the attack list, and I believe that's actually relatively high. Let me see. If,
UN Squadron was really good.
I believe that is UN Squadron. The arcade game is sitting at a 4, which is just below Mastercraft. So, if you were to say, like, how do you want to experience 8088? Although I will say the game has almost nothing to do with the property itself.
They are completely fucking divorced
don't-
from one another.
Yeah, I don't know how to say this because they're so completely different. Like hell, the thing is even named Area 88 and kind of just it's based on it, but so divorced from it, I can't really give an honest answer to this.
One funny thing I will mention about the game, like in comparison to the game, the SNES game, or the SNES version in particular, in that game you are actually saving up money to purchase like ships, or purchase your aircraft. So the aircraft you can purchase the F-8 that Shin starts with, the F-20 that he inevitably gets. You can buy Mickey's F-14, Greg's A-10 Thunderbolt. There is also another plane which I believe is a MiG, which I believe shows up in the manga at some point. There's also what they call the F-2000 Ifrit, which is essentially the Airwolf. And that ship is $1 million in game. Which, if you could afford that $1 million, that is almost his that's 2/3 of his contract.
Yep.
So I always found that to be funny once I found that thing out.
It's just so weird.
I don't know how to answer this one.
So I think at this point,
Like-
I'm just gonna leave it blank because I don't think you
Yeah,
can even say that.
Yeah, it's hard to compare the two, really.
Or actually,
It's like
let's see.
I feel like it's an apples to oranges deal here.
Like, I feel like this is probably closer in tone. The OVA is probably closer in tone to the original manga, but it's just...
The game's really good.
Yeah, the game's really good.
Yeah, I was thinking because we have this symbol right here.
So did you mark it for gore?
Not yet because we haven't gotten that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put a
that-
shrug for plus.
So, mark this for gore and sexual...
Yep.
like-
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is attempted sexual assault.
Yes. Yes, it's like nudity, but that's so. Other
There
things
is a
we
bit of
wanna-
titty, it's true, and that's
Yes.
what's really important.
So one thing of the things to call out, I do think we should call out the music.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's good, yeah.
Let's see, we got music. Let's see, charm, cinematography, story, action.
I think the
Artistry.
action, I do think charm to some extent too.
Charm and action, definitely. Like,
Yeah.
that is some of the best...
Also, I do think the dog fights look pretty good. So yeah,
Yes. These are some of the best dogfights I have seen.
you've got a low bar, buddy.
To be fair, I haven't seen a lot of animated dogfights that aren't that are actual planes versus just straight up nonsense. Because watching a Gundam is not the same. A Gundam fight is not the same kind of dogfight experience as watching an A10.
It also helps that there are a bunch of older planes, and those are actually a lot more fun to watch dogfight.
Yeah.
Honestly. Because most of the people working at Area 88, their planes weren't really past the 60s.
Nope. Like the Tiger Shark, where it's like the one exception. Also Harriers.
No, yeah, but the Harriers were specifically brought in by a
Right.
foreign power.
Right. Is there anything else we want to really call out?
Not really. Yeah, no, I can't really. I'm surprised that there isn't is there a writing thing for this?
I mean,
It's
that's in story, which is this.
I guess
Okay.
inconsistent.
Yeah, I don't think there's one for that in A though, unfortunately.
I could do for I could do. You know, actually,
But yeah, it's that entire plane
'Cause
sequence
this is-
seems really tonally dissonant.
because the one thing that I do kind of want to, I might have to come up with something later on, but yeah, that is, I think that's probably good for that. So yeah, that's Area 88, the OVA. Oh, actually, I should mark that down. Because if we do, for some reason, go back to the TV series, that is a different thing. All right, and with that, that brings us to the end of taking a look at Area 88. So, with that, Carnival and Torpid, is there anything you want to plug?
I guess, sure. I'll plug Boogeyman Buddies, an actual play podcast that Torp and I are on.
Yeah.
Yep, it's
I
good.
mean, I want to plug the holes in my plane. Please help, I'm dying.
Yeah, that's not going to help.
Oh no.
All right, so with that, yeah, that is going to, as I said, going to do it for Area 88. Next episode, we are going to be covering another OVA, I swear we're not just doing anime. We will be doing other things. The OVA we were talking about is based on Wizardry Proving Grounds: The Mad Overlord.
No, not that.
That is the thing we're doing. That's 2
I
episodes
know.
from now.
I don't want to.
But we gotta get back to our stuff based on games, and we're talking about Wizardry because again, much like Salamander, a franchise that really needed an anime.
Why do you feel the need to pair garbage with something good?
Because
It's balanced, as all things must be.
I will ban you. So fucking help me.
all right, with that, I think that's it for Area 88. So thank you and thanks. I don't know how I'm going to end these things out.
But
Thank you all for listening to Media Delta. If you want to see the full ranking list for yourself, you can go to r3.ldp.life in your browser, and that will take you straight to the list. If you would like to watch Retro Rank Rhapsody, this show's sister series in which we play the games that the shows that we are talking about on Media Delta are based on, you can watch them be recorded live on Twitch at twitch.tv/loadedpuzzlo. Episodes are recorded live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fridays, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays, and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sundays. Or, alternatively, you can watch all episodes on YouTube by going to youtube.ldp.life. You can follow the show's Twitter by going to @HazeltownStory, or my personal Twitter @LoLoToPuzzlo. If you want to discuss the show with others, you can join the official Discord channel by going to discord.ldp.life in your browser, where you can also vote in polls to determine what episodes will be coming next for both Retro Rank Rhapsody and Media Delta. Again, thank you all for listening, and I hope that you come back for the next episode.